So this is from Owen Bond, and I hope he watches this show today, but this was on yesterday's show. He says, love the show, man. With that said, I turn 18 in about 10 days, and I'm wondering what the first thing I should do is. I've been interested in Bitcoin for a while, and my parents are against it, so they wouldn't set up an account for me. But now that I'm going to be 18, I can, and I just want to know what you would do as a first course of action when getting into Bitcoin. First of all, give your parents give your parents two big GFYs and say, I can't believe you stopped me from investing in the best asset that's ever existed. That's number one. But then number two, this is what we're going to do. So most people, and I'm guilty of this myself. When people ask, how do I get into Bitcoin? How do I buy some Bitcoin? Usually what you say is you send them to an exchange, you tell them to load it up with some funds, and then you kind of just get them to move it off there. That's the first step of action, is moving it off the exchange, setting up a wallet, but then you just kind of leave it there. And so they bought Bitcoin, they went through the whole KYC process, they scanned their driver's license, and then they sent Bitcoin, and they don't really understand what exactly happened there because they didn't have to do anything. The exchange made it very easy for them to do. So they bought the Bitcoin, they sent it to their wallet, which is kind of cool in itself, but that's like a fraction of what Bitcoin is. And so I think that everybody, when they start, they should learn about how the mining process works, but also how a Bitcoin transaction works. And so I'm hoping that after watching this, even people who have been in Bitcoin for a little while, they'll see a transaction. There's probably a lot of people in this chat who have never sent a Bitcoin transaction the way we're going to do it here. So kind of cool. So what I'm going to ask is that hopefully this is going to be a good learning experience for some people out there who have maybe never seen it before. But if you're somebody who has done this before, I'm asking you to just help me out a little bit here. So I don't anticipate this is going to be real easy to do live. So if I miss anything throughout this process, maybe just leave a comment or put a comment in the chat and I'll bring it up on the screen, because I'm guaranteed to miss some parts of this. So I'm just hoping that people out there, if you can give some tips that I maybe missed, I'd appreciate that. So let's get to it. I'm going to bring up Sparrow Wallet. And so this is what I want everybody to kind of start with the Sparrow. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to bring up the mempool, because this is what we talk about every day on this show, the mempool. This is how the show starts every day. And so once we go through this, we're going to be able to see how this all works. So we are currently at block height 837,248, which means that since January 3rd, 2009, 837,000 blocks have been mined on average every 10 minutes. So since then, 837,000 blocks. This block right here, the last block that was mined, was the transaction fees was an average of 12 sats per VByte. And we're going to see what that means in a second. But within each block, within every single block, is just a bunch of transactions. That's all it is. So you can scroll down here. You can look at the transactions, who sent it to who, what the fees were, everything. So that's basically what a block is just a bunch of transactions. So if I sent Bitcoin to you, it would be included in a block if I did it right. And so I think that's the best place to start. So let's take that down. So Tommy says, what the fuck does bring up the mempool mean? That's a good question. The mempool.space website. Hey, we don't need to get cheeky in here this morning. Adrian Lee, good to see you, my friend. I love the smell of Bitcoin in the morning and coffee. Costello says we get to see Bitcoin's journey today. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Hey, Brett, look at this guy. Look at this guy. This is a founding member of the 88 Sats community. Good to see you, man. He says, disappointing when you finally orange pill someone, then the price dips and they panic sell. Months go by and the price doubles, but they already sold and have no clue what they missed because of it. Yep. That is the purpose of the show exactly. And I honestly don't love the term orange pill. I think we kind of need to move away from that because it feels too forced. Basically, what we need to do is people need to feel pain. They need to experience what's happening in the world right now, which they are. Everything costs so much. And so when they feel some pain, they start asking some questions. They start learning about money, how our money works. And then from there, they see that Bitcoin is the solution to that. Everything's going up in fiat. Everything's going down in Bitcoin in terms of how much we pay for things. So that is a great point. And I hope that once people see exactly what's happening here, they might think twice about just looking at it as purely speculative asset, something that they're hoping the price goes up, instead of freedom money, which is what it is. So let's bring up Sparrow here. This is what we're going to do. And let's hope that this works. I'm going to bring it up over here. So you're going to have to bear with me here a little bit because it's going to take some navigating back and forth. So this is the Sparrow wallet. And you can go, I will leave the link in the description below for the Sparrow wallet. Very easy to find. All you have to do is download it onto your desktop. You can use Mac or PC. There's both options on there. So I'll put a link in the description below. If you want to, this is the best wallet. This is the best Bitcoin wallet that exists. So before we get to here though, this is kind of what's going to happen. If you're somebody who's just getting into it, this is what you're going to do. So you're going to start with some money. You have some free cash. You're going to send that money. First of all, you're going to register for an account on an exchange, whatever that exchange is in your country. In Canada, I highly recommend Bull Bitcoin. They are the best. There is no second best in Canada for Bitcoin exchanges. So I'm going to leave a link in the description below as well for that. You can use a referral code. You can get 20 bucks free Bitcoin for signing up with that link. But all you're going to do is simply send them an e-transfer. Once you've registered for an account, send them an e-transfer. You buy Bitcoin with that. You basically exchange it with Bull Bitcoin, dollars for Bitcoin. And before you can move it anywhere, you actually have to have a wallet set up. So the first thing you're going to do is actually download a Sparrow wallet, get that set up. It's pretty easy to do. If you need help with that, you can either shoot me an email or you can probably find something for free on YouTube in terms of using the Sparrow wallet. So set up Sparrow, sign up for an account on an exchange, Bull Bitcoin here in Canada, e-transfer them some money, and then you exchange that for Bitcoin. And then you're going to send that Bitcoin to the Sparrow wallet. And that's kind of where we're going to start because we're just going to do a full transaction here. And it's the exact same thing when it happens from Bull Bitcoin as well, but you don't have to worry about the fees because they're free when you send it off the exchange. So I had to yesterday, sounds like my computer's running pretty hot here, so hopefully it's not too choppy. So I had to do something I don't love doing yesterday to set up for the show, but I had to send a couple small UTXOs because I want to show the whole thing here. So this is what we're going to do. In Sparrow, you have all the functionality in here. This is the best wallet because you can see all the UTXOs. So every time you send Bitcoin from an exchange like Bull Bitcoin to a wallet, that creates a new UTXO. And so you can see here that I have two UTXOs within this wallet, one for 100,000 sats and one for 94,000 sats. So these are two different transactions that I sent from Bull Bitcoin into the wallet, which created two UTXOs, which stands for an unspent transaction output. Don't worry about the slang here. Just worry about every time you send Bitcoin from an exchange to a wallet, that creates a new UTXO. So what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to consolidate these two. So I'm going to combine these into one UTXO, and that's what you can do. That's what you should do if you have a bunch of UTXOs in your wallet. And if you're using something other than Sparrow, you might not even know how many UTXOs you have. And it could set up for a lot of pain in the future if you have a lot of UTXOs, because when you go to consolidate that, you have to pay a fee, a transaction fee for every single UTXO that you're consolidating there. So That's kind of a separate conversation. We'll save that for the end maybe, but this is what we're going to do. So first of all, you can do this all within the same wallet. I'm going to go to receive. So you can see here that this is a brand new address from Sparrow within this wallet. So it says last used was never, which is good. That's what you want. And I'm going to label this consolidation. So now I'm going to copy that. Sending Bitcoin and receiving Bitcoin is the easiest thing to do on earth. I know people think that just because it's a brand new thing that is difficult, all you do is copy and paste. So if I wanted to send you money, I'd have to get your banking information, your e-transfer. I have to check with the bank first. With Bitcoin, all I have to do is copy and paste your address. So that's what this is, the new wallet that we're receiving into. And so now I'm going to send all of my sats. I'm going to combine my UTXOs, and we're going to follow this transaction on the blockchain, on the mempool. So I'm going to paste it in there, copy and paste. And I apologize to zap.stream. I don't have you up right now, so I don't know what's happening in there. But I got to stay focused here. So in this case, I'm going to click max there. You can put in any amount that you want in here, but I'm going to click max. I'm going to send the full amount, consolidate it all. And this is the cool thing here. So if you have two options here, target blocks or mempool size. I use mempool size only, and it connects with mempool .space, I believe. So if we go back to mempool.space, and we're going to look at the fees here on mempool.space. This is what you want to look at. So you can see this next block that's about to be mined. These ones in purple over on the right side have been mined. The ones on the left here, this is the mempool. These are the transactions that are waiting to be confirmed. So I look at this and I see that the next block looks like it's going to be about 8 sats per VByte. So that's what you want to look at. What's the fee on this to get into the next block? So now we go back to the wallet. And I knew that this was going to be kind of a pain in the ass to jump back and forth to, but that's okay. So now we go back to the wallet, and we can see here that the fee, since Sparrow is connected to mempool, you can see that they're suggesting about a fee of 10 sats per VByte. So because I do want this to get into the next block, I want to set it as a high priority. And with the priority, the one thing to keep in mind is how fast you want to send it. So you kind of got to look at this a couple different ways. The first one that is, if you're just sending Bitcoin to yourself, if you're just consolidating UTXOs, which I'm doing here, then you can wait a while. You can wait. I would set the transaction fee to be low, save some sats, and it should eventually get picked up. If let's say the crypto heathen is selling his motorcycle in a parking lot somewhere for Bitcoin. He wants to make sure that transaction is confirmed before they leave the parking lot. So he wants to tell the guy to set a very high priority there. He wants to make sure that it's done in 10 minutes. He doesn't want to be sitting in the parking lot for a couple hours waiting for that transaction to go through. So he's going to set a high priority on that one. So that's kind of the scale that I would use, is just how fast do you want this thing to be confirmed? Because once I send this transaction here, what it's going to do is it's actually going to go into the mempool. And in that mempool, it's not going to get put into a block until your transaction fee is high enough. So keep that in mind. The faster you want it to be confirmed, the higher the fee that you're going to set on it. So in this case, because we're live on the internet, I'm going to set this as a high priority, 10 sats per VByte. I don't want to waste too many sats here. So you can see that my fee on that is 1,770 sats, which is a donation to the Bitcoin Journey community going through this. So you can see that it's coming from both my UTXOs. It's going into a new consolidated wallet, and it's taking a fee off it. So you can see the flow here on Sparrow as well. Like I said, the Sparrow wallet is the best wallet to be using just for this, to see it all happen. So now I'm going to go to, everything looks good. I got my address in there, my receive address. my label. I'm sending all my sats, and I'm paying a fee of $17.70 for a high priority. And now let's create this transaction, finalize it for signing. Everything looks good. And now we're going to sign it. So I've signed the transaction, and now what I'm going to do is broadcast it. So once I click broadcast, this transaction is going to go into the mempool. It's going to be broadcast out to every single person on Earth who's running a Bitcoin node. So that's what broadcast means. It goes out to the entire world. Every person running a Bitcoin node is going to see this transaction in the mempool. So let's broadcast it. Cross your fingers, cross your toes. So there we go. It says it's unconfirmed. And if we go back into the wallet now, you can see that it is unconfirmed. And this is what you want to be paying attention to in Sparrow. I don't know if you can see this very well or not, but there's a little circle there. And once that fills in with one confirmation, one piece of the pie, that's when that transaction is confirmed, or one confirmation, but that's when it's spendable. So kind of right now, it's just sitting in the mempool. It's sitting in those blocks to the left on mempool.space. So let's go back there. Actually, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this transaction. Where is it? Transaction ID. So you want to find your transaction ID. You can copy it. And then I'm going to go back into mempool.space, and we're going to search for that transaction. Can somebody in the chat just let me know if my feed is okay? It seems like my computer is running pretty hot, but I haven't noticed anything too bad. So we're going to go back to mempool now. And I'm going to paste this. So at the top here, you can see it says, explore the full Bitcoin ecosystem. So I'm going to paste my transaction ID into there, and we're going to search for it. So you can see the transaction. It says it was first seen 2 minutes ago. Its estimated time of arrival is about 9 minutes. The features I used were SegWit and RBF. And I'm going to talk about RBF in just a second here. I paid a fee of $17.70 or $1.19. And the fee that I set was 10 sats per VByte. And you can see the flow here. So this came out of one UTXO. This came out of one UTXO. This is the fee at the top. And then this is going into my new wallet, into one single UTXO. So there's my wallets. There are the addresses that it came from, 1, 2, and got put into this new address, consolidated, now has one UTXO. So now we're just going to wait. I'm going to put on some elevator music, and we're going to wait. Just kidding. But I do have a couple things to mention here. So first of all, I think the first thing to notice there is that I didn't have to ask anybody to do that. I didn't have to check in with anybody to send that transaction. I didn't have to ask my bank if I'm allowed to send that transaction. I just did it. And that's, in that case, I sent it to myself. I was just managing some UTXOs. If you have two UTXOs, it's probably not a big deal. I just kind of did it for presentation purposes. But if you are somebody who has like 20 UTXOs or more, and if you don't know how many UTXOs you have, I would consider downloading the Sparrow wallet, putting your private key into there, and it should be able to show you all your UTXOs that you have. And the time that you want to be consolidating UTXOs is when the fees are low, like right now. This is the lowest I've seen them in a while. Oh, and I just see that the next block just bumped up to 11 sats per VByte. It says minimum of 8. I don't know if you can see this very well or not on here, so I'll see if I can zoom. Yeah, you can. So there you go. You can see there that the average transaction in this next block is 11 sats, but the minimum that's being picked up is 8. So my transaction, I set it at 10 sats per VByte. So I still should be okay. And if not, there is something else you can do in Sparrow to bump that up. So we're just going to keep waiting for it. Oh yeah, of course it's going to go up. It's at 12 sats now. So this is kind of the fun part about the mempool, is that you watch this next block whenever you send a transaction. This is what you're paying attention to right here. And you don't want it to go up on you, because my transaction is still over here in the mempool. And until my fee is high enough to be put into a block, it's going to sit there forever. Not forever, but for a while. So that is that. That's the permission part of that. And so the second part I wanted to talk about in this is I wanted to share a quote from Michael Saylor. So his quote, and I saw this morning as well, is that in time, everything before Satoshi will be viewed as BS. In time, everything before Satoshi will be viewed as BS. And I want you to think about that, because within these Bitcoin transactions, you can include data on there. Every Bitcoin transaction is just data. That's all it is. And so the more data you have in that transaction, the more it's going to cost you, right? So one UTXO is a very small amount of data, so it doesn't cost you very much. 20 UTXOs is a bunch of data, so it's going to cost you more to send that transaction. And when the fees are higher, it's going to cost you a lot more to send that transaction. And so that's one aspect of it. But the other thing is that the way this works and the way that the Bitcoin blockchain works is when I broadcast that transaction, that got sent out to every single person on Earth running a Bitcoin node. So they now all have an updated copy of the Bitcoin ledger. And the Bitcoin ledger is just a bunch of data, bunch of transactions, bunch of data. And so you'd have to go to every single person on Earth who's running a Bitcoin node if you wanted to change anything on that ledger. So think about how that's going to impact not only money, but history. If you wanted to enter something into the, and people have done this, people do this. You could put something into a Bitcoin transaction, broadcast it, pay a high enough fee, and it gets put into a block. And that piece of information, that transaction, is going to live on every single person on Earth's Bitcoin node forever. So that's why they call it immutable, is because once you broadcast that, there's absolutely no way for you to change that unless you had enough Bitcoin, enough mining power to be able to take over the network, go back, change that transaction, and then that's where it starts from there. But we know that that's not possible, just based on the fees. That would have been possible maybe back in 2010, but it's not possible in 2024. So we're still kind of in limbo here. As I figured this was going to happen, every time you want to do something on live internet, it takes longer than you want to. And I see that the fee now is 13 sats per VByte, but this might also be a good learning experience for us because we might be able to use the RBF. And so the RBF feature within Sparrow, a lot of wallets don't have this. And this is why I love using Sparrow, because this means replaced by fee, RBF. And so what that means is that if I see this, and they are getting away from me now. So this next transaction is now 14 sats per VByte. I set mine at 10. And so normally if you weren't using Sparrow here, you would just have to sit and hope that the fees went low enough where your transaction would be picked up. But because I used RBF, I can actually go in here and I can bump up my fee, broadcast it again, and I can get put into the next block. And I think I'm actually going to do that because actually I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and see what happens here. So let's check on the chat here while we wait. I don't want to miss this because I want it to see it get picked up on mempool. But Ballsy Golf has jumped over to YouTube. I apologize to Zap.stream today. I can't see you right now, but I know you're there. So Ballsy Golf is over on YouTube now. Says all's working. Thanks for the step-by-step show. I think it's important. Oh, what happened there? Nothing. Looks like we're close. I think this is important. Nimlord says, did you hear that Bull Bitcoin is pulling the plug on non-KYC Bitcoin? Yes. We talked about that on Tuesday show, I believe, or Monday show. But we still have, what, 9 days to do it or 11 days to do it? You have until April 15th to get as much Bitcoin, non-KYC from Bull Bitcoin as you can. But with or without non-KYC Bitcoin, like I said, I still, yeah. So you can see here, I'm going to zoom in again. You can see here that the fee now is 15 sats per VByte on average. Oh, that was too big. And you can see that this block now has 3,200 transactions in it. And I think the average is about that. So we can expect this block to be mined any minute now. I think the maximum is about 4,000 transactions, but it also depends on how many UTXOs are within those transactions. So I'll zoom out a little bit here. It looks like we're going to have to use RBF on this, which is good. I like that because we're going to actually learn something here. Matt says, great stuff. Thanks for the stream. Of course. Frenchie Montana apparently spent over 30,000 to put his MP3 on Bitcoin. Interesting. I also saw that one of the members of the Wu-Tang Clan was putting their music on the Bitcoin blockchain. So when you think about the Bitcoin blockchain, just think about it all as data. That's all that it is. And every time you go to send a transaction, the more data within your transaction you have, the higher fee you're going to pay to get into that block, because each one of these blocks only has so much space within it. And that's kind of something that over the last, whenever Bitcoin Cash, whenever the block size wars happened, that's what they were fighting over. Bitcoin Cash wanted to increase the block size, which means the blocks can come in faster. They wanted to increase the block size, fit more data into there. But the Bitcoiners said, no, we want to keep this at, I think it's 4 megabytes maximum. And I don't know what the Bitcoin Cash one is, but I think that it was a very good idea to limit the block space, because then you create supply and demand. There's the less blocks there is, the longer it takes for them to get mined, or the less space there is on there, and everything moves in a much more efficient way. That's why, you know, the difference between layer 1 and layer 2 is that this is layer 1. This is Bitcoin. It's more expensive to use, but it's much more secure. It's a little bit slower, obviously. We've already been here for about 10 minutes now. But this is what you get. You get a transaction that gets broadcast out to every single person running a Bitcoin node. It's immutable. And so I think that this is what's going to replace bank wires in the future, because this is essentially what a bank wire is, except in this case, you don't have to check with the bank. You don't need the other person's routing number. You don't need the approval of both banks. You don't need all that information. All you need is their Bitcoin address. And you can essentially pull off a Bitcoin transaction on your own. A very secure one. Robert's in the house. Good morning, my friend. There's some chat about the Fold card. I don't know about Fold. I'm in the Canada, so I don't know about it. King. That's an interesting way to spell King, almost like King Golf. King D says, I went to Canada Post 2 days ago and wasn't able to finish the transaction. What? That doesn't make any sense. I was there 2 days ago as well, and it worked for me. So Crypto Heathen says, how do you know when your transaction was accepted and confirmed? So there's a couple ways to once it's confirmed, this transaction here will change. It'll say that it has been the block that it's in, what time it happened. That'll all get put into a timestamp and included on here, but it hasn't been picked up yet. It looks like this is taking a while. So you can see here that this is kind of one of the things about Bitcoin is most people know that it's every 10 minutes a new block is mined, but we can see here that it's not every 10 minutes. That's the average of it. So we went from 49 minutes ago to 29 minutes ago, and these 3 blocks here were within 3 minutes, but it's been 18 minutes since the last block. And so what's happening right now is the miner who solved the equation and won the block subsidy is assembling this mine or this block. So you can see it. We'll click into this one. Or maybe you can't. Maybe you can't see that yet. Oh, yeah. So this is the next block. You can see the miner here is assembling this next block. And once it's mined, it gets broadcast out to every single person, like I said, running a Bitcoin node. So the average fee is 17 sats per rebyte. Mine was 10. So my transaction will not be getting picked up in this block. So I might as well just go and up my fee there. But so it says you can see the total fees of 0.26 of a Bitcoin. All of these fees here go to the miner who mined the block, who solved the equation. The total transactions in here are 3,200. You can see how it goes up and down because they're assembling this block to make it the most efficient while maximizing the fees in there. So that's what's happening right now. There it is. So that block was confirmed. My transaction was not picked up. Damn. So what we got to do now, is we got to go back to Sparrow and we got to increase our fee. Or we can wait. I'm going to maybe just see what, no, I'm not. See, this, it's not a real easy thing to do here because I now need to decide if I want to, because that block took so long, I would expect that this one's going to get mined quicker. And we can see here that the fee, oh, you can't see it. Uh-oh, what did I do here? What did I do now? Okay, here we go. Okay, we're back. So we can see here that the next block is 9 sats per rebyte. That's the average. And like I said, my transaction was 10 sats per rebyte. So there is a chance that I'm going to be put into this block still. And now it's going up again. So I'm just going to replace the fee. I'm going to bump it up. I'm going to make sure that we get this done because we really don't need to have a 2-hour live stream here sending a transaction. And this is a good learning experience, I think. So how do I get rid of this? There we go. So we're going to go back to the Sparrow wallet. We're going to bump up the fee because we used RBF. We're able to do this. And so let's go back to Sparrow. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to this transaction. So you can see here that that was not picked up by the block. None of my pieces of the pie have been filled in. So I'm going to go to this transaction. I'm going to bump up the fee. I'm going to put it to, I'm going to spend some more sats here, but I want to make sure that this gets put into the next block. So I'm going to bump up this fee to be 13 point, we'll go 14. I'm spending 2,500 sats here to do this. So this is the RBF feature. You can see here at the top, it says consolidation replaced by fee. So they know that I'm bumping up the fee here. So I'm going to create it. I'm going to finalize it. I'm going to sign it. And I'm going to broadcast it. So now let's see what happens. Rick says, I'm definitely going to rewatch this. That's the reason why I wanted to do this today, actually, is because it's fun and exciting to see it live. But I do think that there's going to be a lot of people, once they see this, once they see how the whole thing works here. Actually, I shouldn't be talking too much. I need to get back to the mempool. There we go. So once people see how this whole thing works, I think they're going to change their mind on Bitcoin quite a bit. So you can see that my transaction changed here. It says this transaction has been replaced by this. So we're going to go to my new transaction with the RBF. And you can see my RBF history. I went from 10 sats per VByte 19 minutes ago to 14 sats per VByte 1 minute ago. Okay, so we're back. I think we're going to be okay here. Keep your fingers crossed, keep your toes crossed, and let's hope for the best here. But as Rick says, I'm definitely going to rewatch this. So it is fun. It's exciting to watch this live, but I wanted to make a really good resource for people for the future when they actually go to send a transaction, because what I want to be, and one thing I've always done from the start of the show is talked about the best in every category. So that means with exchanges, Bull Bitcoin, with wallets, Sparrow, with devices, Cold Card. And in your Bitcoin journey, you're going to run into a bunch of different things. You're going to hear about this new wallet, this new exchange offering this device that does this, and you're going to be led down all these different roads into different altcoins too. But we just have to keep it simple. We have to stick to what works and just do that until it doesn't work anymore. So once if you're getting serious about Bitcoin, I want you to download the Sparrow wallet. I want you to manage your UTXOs properly, learn how to send a Bitcoin transaction, and you can always come back to this video, which worked out perfectly, other than it costing me some more sats, but it worked out perfectly because we were able to send the transaction, follow it, and then increase our fee so that we made sure that it gets picked up in the next block. So hopefully this works. In the meantime, I'm going to look at some chats here. King says, yeah, no doubt. What happened here? I saw a good comment. Apply this to elections. Verifiable. This will be applied to elections. It will be applied to history, just because of how it works. The whole system here and how this works is that another aspect of this. Oh, the fees are going up again. What are we gonna do if I have to replace it again? I've never done 2 RBFs before. So kind of behind the scenes, even further into this transaction, is all of these miners, every single person who's running a Bitcoin miner right now, they're contributing their power to the Bitcoin network. That's what hash power is. Every time you plug in a miner, that increases the hash power. Every time you unplug a miner, it decreases the hash power. And so what these miners are trying to do is they're essentially trying to solve the equation to be able to mine the next block. And the more power you have, the more electricity that you're adding to the network, the higher your chances are of mining that next block. And the reason why there's only one person who can mine the block is because, could you imagine if there was like 20 different people who are trying to assemble the next block and they were broadcasting it out to a bunch of different places? The reason there's only one miner who's allowed to mine the next block is for that reason. So there's only one block. They're responsible for putting it together, assembling the block, putting the transaction in it, and then that gets sent out to the entire network. One person. Not 20, not 50, not 100 different people doing this. There's only one person. And that's the purpose of the block reward and the subsidy, is to incentivize people to do that. So the more people mining, the more difficult it becomes, and the higher the fees are within it. Okay, I'm starting to sweat a little bit here because we're at 12 sats per VByte right now, and I set mine at 14 sats per VByte. So King says, I don't really want to spend or send any. Personally, I'm just stacking for 10 or 20 years. And that's fine. That's fine. But even with this, it really depends on how you're buying your Bitcoin. So like I said at the top of the show here, is that with this Bitcoin transaction and with the wallets, every time you buy Bitcoin on an exchange, whether you're using Bull Bitcoin, River, Bitaroo in Australia, whatever exchange you're using, every time you move that Bitcoin from the exchange into your own wallet, that is one UTXO. So every time you do that, if you're DCAing, if you're somebody who buys every week and sends it to your cold storage, you're going to have a shitload of UTXOs. And when you actually go to send those UTXOs, you're going to pay a ton of Bitcoin to do it. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. Even if you are somebody like King here who is stacking for the next 10 or 20 years, that's something that you have to pay attention to is your UTXOs. So even with this transaction, and what I did here was consolidate. So what you do there is you just take your UTXOs, you create a new transaction to a new address, you send it there, and then it consolidates into one single UTXO, which is a good way to do it. You don't want to have all your Bitcoin in one UTXO, but you should have your main stack. Let's say that you have 1 Bitcoin. Oh, fuck, I'm going to miss the block here probably. Oh, it's at 14 now. Oh, why are you doing this to me, Mempool? I'm just trying to do a good deed for the Bitcoin community, and you're screwing me. Oh, shit. How did I know that this was going to happen? What should we do now? That's the question. Do we bump up the fee again? Or do we wait? Oh, I don't like the looks of this. We're going to wait it out. This might be a 2-hour live stream today, but it's going to confirm one day. We might have to pay more sats, but we're going to get this baby confirmed. Okay, so this is King's strategy. This is a great strategy. Buy $1,000 at a time from Bitcoin Well straight to cold storage. That's a great strategy. And forget the dollar amount there because the dollar amount is going to change over time. But I would say a good rule of thumb would be until you have at least, let's say, 200,000 or 300,000 sats, don't move that to your cold storage yet. Just leave that on the exchange for a little while until that gets up to about 200,000 or 300,000, maybe even 500,000 sats. Then send it to your cold storage. That's good Bitcoin practice. I think we're going to miss this block. Johnny says, call Craig Wright and ask him what to do. This is part of Bitcoin. And the reason why we're able to do this, we're not checking with the bank. I'm not on the phone with my bank asking them what to do. I'm figuring this out myself. And so with Bitcoin comes a lot of responsibility. With that responsibility comes freedom. So it is a trade-off, but the more you do this kind of stuff, the more you familiarize yourself with this. Wow, I don't know why that word was so hard to say, but the better off and more comfortable you're going to be doing it. So I want you to, number one, bookmark this video. If you are somebody who's kind of unfamiliar with this process, then bookmark this, save it. And if you have any friends who are in Bitcoin who might not really be aware of this stuff, I want you to send it to them and just tell them it's going to be an hour long. It's kind of entertaining because we got screwed over a couple times here.